Right, good morning everybody. It's 9:30. Like to welcome members of the public who have come out this morning to be at this meeting. I'm reminded by Lisa to remind everybody that we are on audio recording, just so that everybody is aware of that. So if we make a start, item 1, apologies for absence.
Councillor Oliver and Councillor Earl is here in his replacement.
Thank you. The minutes of the last meeting, 10th of August, seems an awful long time ago, and we seem to have moved on. But is everybody happy, A, with that, those minutes? And I assume that there's no points arising from them that won't be covered by item 4 on the agenda. Thank you. Thank you. Item 3, disclosure of interest, to receive any new disclosures by members of personal and disclosable pecuniary interest in matters on the agenda not previously disclosed. Yes, Councillor Mrs. Prochak.
Yeah, just a point. It's right at the beginning of this process. We actually, all of us, had an interest in the sense that we declared our hand either through the elections or through past history. So we sort of our positions on this are very well known before we actually get to any discussion. So I think maybe should we declare again, or?
I'm not sure quite what point you're making. I mean, I think you're almost suggesting that there's some predetermination. Are you? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think we cleared it up in terms of predetermination right at the beginning, but I do feel as though everybody sitting around this table who's going to make a decision today, they've already said what their preferred notion is.
A moment, yes, Director.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just remind that the purpose of today's meeting is not to make a decision. The decision will be taken by full council at that point in time. I think there have been various views expressed throughout the process. Predetermination isn't quite the same issue it is in planning, but it is still relevant up to a point. I think what most members will probably say is that they have a view on what the outcome would be, but that the debate at full council will be when the decision will be made, and I'm sure that's without putting words in anybody's mouth, that will be the formal position. But the point of today is not to make a decision, it is to make a recommendation, whatever this work steering group decide, to overview and scrutiny. So there is actually no decision as from today.
Right, so I assume from that there are no further any interests have not previously been disclosed. So if we then move on to the main body of the report, which is item 4, the outcome of stage 2 consultation and the final recommendations. Yes.
Chairman, I'll just do a very quick introduction to the report. The report basically speaks for itself. It includes the background and options consulted on, the level of responses we received to the consultation, which was 9,227 valid responses. 17 organisations responded, and their comments are in appendices C, D and E. The report also touches on the costs that we spent on printing materials, communications activity in paras 23 to 27, and now it's for members to discuss and consider and make a final recommendation. Chairman.
Thank you. And the final recommendations are as listed on big page 11, items 28 to 34. So, anybody wish to comment? Yes, Councillor Kenward.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I think I would like to make special thanks to the staff who have compiled this. I'm very much aware that one of them under very difficult personal circumstances, and to get this all ready for us on time, it's an excellent job. I think if we move on, we're here really for two reasons this was set up. Reason one was that the controlling group on the council had a manifesto commitment that they would have a governance review of Bexhill. And secondly, there was a public petition asking for area committees to be set up. So there's the two reasons why we're here. This is a very important decision that the council is going to have to make. It's going to be a permanent decision. Some may say it's to set up a body to govern Bexhill, but the truth is we are going to be setting up a tax-raising body that will be there permanently, an additional tax-raising body from the ones that we currently have, which is the County Council, the Fire Authority, the Police Authority and Rother District Council, not counting the government who also tax us. So it's a very important decision that we have to make for the residents of this area. I made a commitment to Councillor Oliver at the outset of this procedure that any decision would not be a decision we made by this group or by scrutiny or by the Cabinet, that it would be a decision made by full council. I believe that such an important decision has to be fully debated by full council, and therefore I would propose that all four of these options are put forward to the scrutiny committee for them to have their debate, for them to pass it on either to Cabinet or to the full council.
And you've got a seconder for that? Yeah. Right, thank you. Yes, Councillor Elford.
Thank you, Chairman. I noticed on item 14, sorry, paragraph 14 there, that there's a more detailed breakdown. I take it that's not available now, but that will be available for the scrutiny meeting. We'll receive that in the pack beforehand. Okay, so we can't break down today. We can't break down the different areas.
Yes, I'm working on it now, but the sample is 9 times bigger than, and so it requires a great deal of careful use of the spreadsheets and so forth. So it's a very big task. So I will provide a full breakdown for overview and scrutiny.
Thank you. And in that case, I think Councillor Kenward's proposal to move it through over in scrutiny committee and on to full council is probably the best idea, as we can get the full breakdown of all the details on the report.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Chairman. Two things. Just one thing I'd just like to clarify before I make any points. Is Councillor Watson on the committee? Because he has seconded a proposal, and I don't believe he was listed as being part of the committee.
He's usually here as a substitute for Councillor Carroll, who hasn't really taken part in the earlier part of the review, so Councillor Watson's been attending as substitute for Carroll.
Okay, right, thank you. I'd just like to say at this stage that I don't believe we should put all four of these proposals for scrutiny and then to Cabinet and full council. I think the people of Bexhill have shown quite clearly what their preference is, and I think that should go forward for discussion, not all four, because I genuinely believe and honestly believe that when we get to the point of full council making a decision, we will be at risk of actually talking this into the long grass, because people from outside of Bexhill directly who it won't affect them will put forward proposals and ideas and argument to stop this going forward. And I think when we look at the figures we have before us today, the people of Bexhill have shown quite clearly that they actually have a preference. And I think it's an insult to them, after all the work that they have done, as well as the officers, to actually ignore that fact. So I'd like to make an amendment to that proposal. I'd like to see just item 2 go forward, because I think that is the only one that the people of Bexhill have shown clearly what they want.
Councillor Mrs Prochak. Fine. Councillor Kenward.
Thank you, Chairman. I would point out to Councillor Earl, who was the person that actually produced the petition asking for area committees, that he now has changed his mind and wants to exclude that from debate. Had I have suggested that we put forward just one option, i.e. option 1, I could understand where he's coming from. But a great number of people of Bexhill agreed with him that they wanted an area committee to govern Bexhill.
Members of the public, if you could keep quiet, it would be a great help and of assistance. Councillor Earl.
May I respond? Thank you. When this idea was actually mooted at the very beginning by our dear friend and late colleague John Lee, we were actually looking at an area committee, and we discussed it fully, and we raised that petition. But that went forward, but the people of Bexhill have actually doubled the amount we had on that vote, and said they would prefer to have a town council. Now, I am not going to sit here and be arrogant and say, well, I didn't start that off. I'm only going to discuss the one thing. I've been elected by people in my division and my ward to actually represent their views, not to put my own views forward. And they have shown quite clearly in every bit of correspondence, public meeting, and we have had, that their preference is a town council. So, as their representative, I think I'm duty bound to support that view, not to go off on my own agenda. So, the reason I have changed my mind from the original petition is quite clear. The people have told me that that is what they would like.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, Bexhill has a population of 43,000, and in this election we had a 25% turnout because there are 7,500 people in Bexhill between 1 and 17. Probably not many took part. I did some research. There's 9,000 town councils and parish councils in England. Bexhill hasn't got one. There's never been, in my 26 years on the council, such a successful consultation that got people in Bexhill involved. It's an amazing result. And if anybody says 25% is not that great, because 75% didn't, most of the councillors in this chamber were elected with 32% of the vote, and none of us didn't take up our seats because we felt it was undemocratic, because 2/3 didn't vote for us, did they? We had a police commissioner who was elected with 11% of the vote. She's still a police commissioner. Those who wanted to vote have taken part. And I agree with Councillor Earl. How can you have a negative proposal sending 4 options to scrutiny when we've had such a result from the residents of Bexhill, 93% saying they want a town council? And I often think in the council, it's not us to tell the residents what we want. We should be led by what the residents tell us they want. And they're saying they want a town council. So therefore, that's my ward members, residents want as well, and that's what I should be voting to recommend to scrutiny.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I understand where Councillor and Councillor Clark are coming from, but I think it's just a little bit disingenuous to keep quoting the people of Bexhill when nearly 80% of them haven't actually joined in with this. And certainly from my own, well, that is actually the case. So there's an awful lot of people of Bexhill, the majority, who of course haven't spoken. And I can say with all honesty, and I go around with a lot of younger people, I've only had one person in Old Town come to me with an issue about this particular vote. Consultation.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you very much, Chairman. With the greatest respect to Councillor Johnson, she was elected with just 20% of the possible votes in her ward. So 80% of the people did not vote for her, but she is here.
Hang on. Sorry, Councillor.
Hang on.
Councillor
Mr. Johnson.
But can I finish what I'm saying?
No, Councillor Mrs. Johnson.
When I got elected, it was over 60%.
60% of what?
Order.
But with the greatest respect to all the councillors here today, we, as elected members, make decisions, and we were all elected with only a portion of the population voting for us. But we are given that privilege. And when we start talking about tax raising, I really fail to see why we are putting up quite so many obstacles to the will of the people. Because when we actually come to any council tax charges and raising of precepts and whatever, should that be the case that we get a town council, it will be the people of Bexhill who will make those choices, not Rother District Council. Not one of the councillors will be involved in raising that precept and setting out their programme and budget. And we're insulting the intelligence of people by dictating to them. We are still a democratic country. We are still a democratic organisation here. And if the will of the people says that we would like something, they have to realise it will cost money. Democracy does cost money. But it will be then up to the elected members of that body to put forward a programme that gets them elected, and two, that they can deliver with the budget they raise. This can only be of benefit to Rother District Council and East Sussex County Council if the pride is restored in the community where they do projects that the council unfortunately hasn't got the resources to do, and it will actually add, it will be a plus to the people of the town to take back some of the initiatives that are denied to Rother District Council because they haven't got the resource to deliver. They have, if we look at some of the council tax issues that are going to come up, Sill being one, at the moment, any development that takes place in an area, surely that Sill money is actually raised to improve the infrastructure in that particular area. In Bexhill's case, it will go into the pot. It will not be here to support the infrastructure. It can go anywhere because we haven't a body to assign it to. And when we spoke many months ago about devolving certain services like public toilets and car parks to parish councils, in Bexhill's case, sadly, they haven't got that option. We've got nobody to devolve it to. And I think, you know, we're getting a bit above ourselves if we think that we were elected in a democratic way to dictate then what the people should have. We are servants of the people. If we don't want to serve them, we shouldn't have stood in the first place.
Councillor Kenward.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm just astounded that Councillor Earl sits there and talks about democracy, and he wants to take the decision along with 6 other members of the council to what 38 members should be debating and making the decision on. Is that democracy?
Councillor Watson.
division, Chairman. And the way we are going now, they are causing division by from elected members, which actual fact, and I know full well, actually have the interests of the town at heart, very much so. They do act in a democratic way to bring up numbers. Yes, it's very true what you say. Majority of people in this country are elected to council on very smaller percentages than the whole population vote, because the whole population doesn't go to the polls on polling day. So I think that is rather a misleading thing. I don't know what my percentage was in Sidley. I know I increased in my vote by 100% when I was first elected. Yes, I've changed parties. I know that. Yes, I did support the town council principle. I still haven't necessarily left that, because I think at the final count will come is that we all have a free vote. And I think this is an important factor where we can actually look. Yes, by the figures on this report here, yes, of course the town, the people that, and thanks to them for taking part. The worst part is that people who don't take part. And this is the problem anyhow. That is, they lose the sense of democracy. At least the people in this room who have actually put their preferences down on the town council, if you like, we might as well go straight to the nutty. Yes, that is right and correct. Perhaps we should take notice of that. I don't know. But it's not what we are saying at the moment. We are actually trying to move this whole system through, which includes the first area committee, which was what actually kicked off this review in a general term. We had a lot of choices from that to make, but that's the choice we had. The other options were brought on at a later date. Yes, some of it has been prejudged. In my own case, I have not prejudged it. The only way which I could be accused of that was actually standing outside a town hall with a red rosette on saying, bringing forward, yes, a town council. That is absolutely right. But when you start to look further into the subject, you then find certain things that might change that opinion. But nobody on the Conservative side have actually made their minds to my knowledge. If they haven't, they should have done it. But But please,
Councillor Watson, are you addressing the chair or your audience? And also, you'd be much more audible if, in fact, you had your microphone turned on. But I think you've made your point. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to ask our director to make a comment.
Yeah, Chairman, can I just again, and at the risk of reminding members, that there are 4 options on the table. You can make recommendations on one of those 4 options. And the reason that we've given you those 4 options is one of your options is not to throw something else, so that somebody could say, for instance, I think there should be 9 parishes based on the wards of Bexhill, because that was excluded, so therefore that is one of your 4 options. If the view of the steering group is that they wish the whole thing to go forward, I would make it clear that if it goes forward with all this information contained and with the additional information that we will give by way of breakdown. So there will be nothing other than the information that has been presented to this committee plus additional clarification that we've talked to you about. And you said apologies for the lateness of this, but as has been explained, there was a very, very good reason for this. But overview and scrutiny will get all of this information, so there will be nothing taken out from it. All that will happen is it will be added to and enhanced, and by enhanced I mean the breakdown, where we can give the breakdown. Obviously we can't give it on all the things, but if people if people answered online, we asked a few further questions on age, ethnicity and things like that, where we can bring that information out. But just to remind members, You can't throw a fifth option in. It is within the steering group's right to say, actually, we do want everything to go forward. I'm just making it absolutely clear that everything means everything. It means everything that is in this report.
Councillor Prochak.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I speak as a non-Bexhill councillor because I represent a rural ward, and I, and along with you, Chairman, is the only person here who actually works with a parish council and parish councils and have great knowledge of them over the years and what good they do and what they, well, sometimes don't. But there we go. I support Councillor Earle's amendment because I just think that our job is to make a recommendation. What are we here for? Why didn't scrutiny just do the job? And before I say that, can I also thank especially Lisa Cooper for doing all the work she did? Really good. And the result of this number of votes, not votes, inverted commas, votes, is just proof there that it was a very, very good consultation. I don't think that any further breakdown is going to help you make a decision, unless you say how many babies or 3-year-olds couldn't vote or whatever. So I don't think, I think the numbers speak for themselves. And why put forward an area committee with 74 votes? Why put forward 4 parishes, which was added at the last minute by not our group, somebody else, 158 votes, and only 364 for no change? Why? I think our job, it was to make a recommendation. And I think we're sort of hiding behind things if we don't make one. Perhaps that's not very well expressed, but that's what I feel. We know the value of devolvement. We know it. Devolved decisions are better decisions. And we are the only town in Bexhill, in the whole of the South Coast, in the whole of Rother, without a town council. And I liked the comment that Rye Town Council made, which was, serving a population of 41,000, a Bexhill Town Council would be well placed to identify unmet needs and ascertain where existing services might be falling short, and then to address these deficiencies creatively and appropriately. And as already been mentioned, it would help Rother District Council because services could be devolved out of their budget. I think the whole process was to set up a town council, to set up devolved government, does it have improved community engagement? We've actually shown that it actually has done that already with just the process. Would there be better local democracy? Indeed. Would there be more convenient and effective delivery of local services? Indeed. And the public have recognised this because we, as a council, have put a huge amount of information on the website, which proves these points. So actually saying, oh, well, let scrutiny have a go at this, I think just it is hiding, as I say. And it's almost sort of cowardice to say, well, we'll leave it to politics. But one ray of hope, Councillor Watson says you'll have a free vote.
I remember that.
That's a ray of hope. Because then perhaps what our leaders said way back at scrutiny, to say this was a waste of time, more important things to do. I can't think of anything more important than democracy.
Councillor Williams. I don't honestly think that should be part of this debate. As far as this steering group is concerned, we're deciding what and how, what goes forward. Councillor Earle. Councillor Clark.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. I'm just trying to track back to where we are. I mean, we put out a first consultation, which wasn't particularly successful. But then we put out a second one, which gave clearly the 4 options. And we've had a very strong steer from the public of what they feel. 93% have said they want a Bexhill Town Council. And a steering group, surely, should give a steer to the scrutiny committee about how that is reflected. So I don't see how you can not go with option 2 and say the public has spoken, 93% say they want a town council. That is the option we should put scrutiny for scrutiny to discuss. It would then go to full council and we're told it'd be a free vote. But what this result to me clearly shows that Bexhill residents are not happy with the current state of affairs and how this council is run at the moment. Definitely not. And also, this council hasn't got a very good reputation on consultations. Residents in my ward always remember when there was a consultation about the new link road and what we should call it. And there was a massive vote for naming that road after a soldier was killed in action. And the council said, no, we'll call it Coombe Valley Way. Sorry, not interested in what you think. So maybe for once we should take notice of a consultation when the people have spoken.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you very much, Chairman. If you will bear with me, I'd just like to read something here that may be of interest. You may or may not be aware that the Conservative Party supports the formation of town councils. At the 2017 National Association of Local Councillors, NALC, convention this last week, the Right Honourable Sajid Javid MP, Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government, expressed his unwavering support for the formation of new councils by saying our government is 100% committed to localism and devolution. He pledged that this Conservative government would tear down the barriers that prevented third-tier governance and stated that parish councils are important because it is local councils delivering for local people. This adds further weight to the long-held Conservative Party policy to encourage localism and devolution, especially when it comes to third-tier governance. Thank you.
All right, well, any other comments anybody wants to make? Because I think we're just rehearsing a lot of the debate that will be taking place in scrutiny, cabinet, and particularly at full council. The point I think that the director made, which is a fair one, if the report as it is written now and is in front of you goes forward, all the options are available, and so the vote that we're going to be taking in a moment is essentially on that basis. Councillor Kenward, I'd like you to repeat your proposal so for everybody's quite clear what your proposal is to start off with. We'll do the amendment, but I shall ask Councillor Earl to clarify his amendment proposal as well.
My proposal is that as this is such an important issue of forming a tax-raising body, all 4 options should be put forward to the scrutiny committee, possibly cabinet, and on to the full council, that there can be a full debate on all the options, and there the decision should be made.
Right, and Councillor Earl, your amendment?
My amendment, Mr. Chairman, is that this steering group sends forward to the scrutiny committee one recommendation for further scrutiny and debate, and that is that Bexhill should have a town council.
Right, so we're both clear on the amendment and on the substantive proposal. Yes, Councillor.
I'm seconding, Councillor, but just to say, if Councillor Earl's amendment wins the day, other councillors are always free to actually add amendments at scrutiny, like they want an area committee or they are free to do that.
So, on the amendment, which you've just heard from Councillor Earl, all those in favour? Those against? the substantive motion succeed. You are? Right, and those in favour of Councillor Kenward's proposal? And those against? Those against? Good, thank you. Right, is that it? I'd just like to, just closing.
Yeah. You could ask if there's any other relevant business that there shouldn't. You could ask if there's any other relevant.
Moving on to item 5, is there any other business that's relevant to this meeting? If not, the date of the next meeting sadly will not take place.
Depending on the outcome.
Depending on the outcome. But I'd just like to take this opportunity as your independent chairman of thanking all councillors that have taken part and have contributed. I'm very sorry that Councillor Oliver isn't present because he's been one of the, I was going to say one of the noisiest, but he has been a major contributor and appreciated the input that he has made. And then finally, without Hughes' expert assistance, the steering group would have found it very difficult to progress. I'd like to thank Lisa on my left and all democratic services, and also Jan, who's done such a mountain of work getting all the statistics. I'm sure that the arguments and debate that will take place at scrutiny and followed by Cabinet and then, of course, at full Council will come to a satisfactory conclusion. And thank you for your presence.
Thank you, Chair.